Look, this is already quite exciting because previously when I was on the side stream, literally every single set aside from the last one was a 3-0. So
You looked at that pool, yeah.
Yeah, so having it go like, back and forth was at least like, exciting, at least like, for me, at least like to watch instead of just like, being a solid 3-0.
Yeah, pool 1, every single set was a 3-0.
That makes sense. I saw quite a few of those sets.
Yeah. Whereas pool 2 was a lot more dynamic. It came down to a 3-way tiebreaker. So Eric ended up winning that just due to game count.
Yeah,
by 1. Yeah, so very exciting. Gonna probably be seeing a very similar way or breakdown of this pool 3, just because I imagine there's gonna be a lot of dynamic sets, a lot of back and forth, potentially some upsets. But Taspu avoiding the first one there, taking down Fuyo with that 3-1.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about how interesting or a mixture of players who might be underseeded and can really deal with each other that this pool 3 number was. I have to also look a little bit at least at this pool number 4. This is the pool with D Money and Ethan and Gray, I believe, as well as Verminator.
Verminator, yeah. So this one's interesting as well.
Yeah.
Talked to Verm before bracket. He said he was feeling good about it. I asked him how he felt about the pool, and he felt good about it. I personally think this pool looks really tough for Verm. He did say though that Gray is the only PR player he has multiple wins on.
Which sometimes you can be a demon for someone. I feel like everyone especially even some of the PR players, there's someone as well who has your number or is a little bit of a demon. So especially on someone on Gray who typically in the history of PR can fluctuate between being arguably top 5 if Gray goes to a lot of events versus around the top 10, but it's mostly just due to a lack of events, then that's a really good player to have a good record on. I mean, we've seen Gray get some of these awesome out-of-state wins at some of these larger regional events that we've had in previous seasons. So,
when you want to talk about out-of-state wins, D Money has been going crazy with out-of-state wins recently. With the Anarchy win, he beat Spickles was another one he beat. I want to say there's at least 1 or 2 more big wins he's gotten recently.
Yeah, I have to remember I have to remember this off the top of my head. All I remember was talking, I think, to Galleon or Pack Smash as they were arriving at the venue for Dash Dance, and then just someone saying D Money beat Anarchy, and then some other thing just about that, and how taken aback they were, because I know the history of D Money versus Greninjas. We've seen
Starman has Derek's number 2 AT.
Yeah, and especially last night, I know that Derek was a little bit nervous about Verminator. He does not like playing Greninja, so that win against Anarchy still kind of blows my mind. But
it also just shows the amount of knowledge that D Money has in the matchup that Anarchy probably doesn't too. And that's not to discredit Derek. He's put in the time. He's learned the matchup. So that's where sometimes having 80+ matchups in the game can be to your benefit, especially as a low tier.
Speaking of players, though, that have blown my mind recently, Ethan was our LCQ victor, and he, from what I saw, at least from the LCQ, from the Thursday Throwdown, he was playing on fire.
Watching him play in Shard, I have not seen a Steve move like that. The way he was just bobbing in and out really was not utilizing block that much. He was just juggling me Brawler as he was weaving in and out around his range. Was so impressive. And Ethan's been, someone that's been, slowly but surely on the come up as he gets better, with time as he learns more about the game and plays more good players. Whereas Gray is kind of the old version of Ethan, where he wants more opportunities he got, the better he got. So this is kind of, it's weird to call Gray old guard, but he kind of is at this point. He's been around on the PR for 4 or 5 years?
Somewhere around that
Somewhere
timeline.
around there.
Look, we've had new people joining the scene post-quarantine. This is kind of transitioning to more of the new guard. And Ethan is one of those big forefront members of the old guard. He's the player that you see whispers of or play online, and then you just think, man, this guy is really, really good. And you see him come out to a few events, but relatively relegated to their home region. So seeing Ethan come out, get HM at least the most recent PR, and also get the LCQ spot is more impressive. And I'm really curious to see how he's even gonna how is it gonna go with Gray at this point.
But you want to talk about a matchup that Gray, I'm sure, was chomping at the bit when he saw was he gets to play Steve Zero Suit. Definitely one of the best top-tier matchups that Zero Suit still has in the current matchup. Really difficult for Steve to deal with her quick frame data, her quick movement, her big hitboxes. he really does. It makes it difficult for Steve to get out and wall and start building those blocks.
Especially with the fact that, like, you know, you have a quick Zair like that. A lot of characters that do well against Steve, like, tend to have, like, those quick pokes. You want to be able to interrupt Steve before he can do a lot of that mining. And we see a lot of these Zairs coming out from Graves just really interrupting Ethan from getting a lot of, like, say, this iron in the first place.
Ethan's definitely a player, though, that even if he can't build that wall, he knows how to put those rebuttals in to play that offense. So it may be a matter of getting those reads and those defensive options like Graves getting there. Great job just getting that down smash into the up B to take about as early as a stock as you're typically going to get for Zero Suit, but Ethan immediately responding with that up smash.
You also see this, you know, very interestingly, like, about, like, as you're talking about, like, with the ZSS versus Steve matchup. Ethan's not even really looking to build the walls necessarily. It's like he doesn't even have the chance to because he knows that Gray is going to be able to respond and just kind of break those walls quicker than Ethan can even build them. It's not really worth it, so you might as well just use it instead for the survivability. It's using it for the combo game with your up tilt links.
But what's so tough is you really do not have the aerials to deal with Zero Suit. As you see there, just Gray just continues to respond to any offense or any defense that Ethan tries to put out. So Gray up a full stock here, up to a very strong start in this set.
These are the up airs, not going to be able to get an extra link, at least like off of that necessarily, but still, this is quite a bit of percent on Ethan, and he's not going to be able to get the combo out of the down throw just yet. This percent is really not as high as Ethan might like necessarily if he wants to try and bring this back and take this first game.
Ethan also down to his last stock here, does not have a diamond yet, has not even had time to mine a diamond, and he's already almost finished with his last stock. That just shows you how suffocating Gray has been throughout this game one so far.
Speaking at least like additionally on that point, this is the first time he's crafted tools even in this set. And this is only the stone tools, which still able to get like, you know, a little bit of combo, get some good damage onto Gray, but even with like that down smash though, like Ethan's like content to just like, you know, like wait out a little bit. He's not really doing a lot of mining, which is something I've noticed a little bit with Ethan, is that he does not mine, I think, enough in my opinion.
It really depends on the matchup. Like I've definitely played a set with him recently where he was very content to do it, and you know, in Sonic Steve. But this is one where, as you were talking about earlier, does not really get the opportunities to very much. But if you're gonna need Diamond if you're going to make this comeback, you're still down a full stock here on Zero Suit, who's definitely gonna be hunting for those back airs sooner than later.
Yeah, refreshing at least the tools a little bit below the stone. You have the Diamond, but now the question is, can you actually like, you know, get a good use out of it? As he needs to get the stock before he can even get the diamond, but Gray's not even going to give him the chance. As Little Zair, Little Bear, the ZSS Classic is going to be sealing out that game number 1.
Yeah, Gray just ready for that fair one to cause the tech chase scenario on the platform, just not even giving Ethan an opportunity to respond. Going to get that back air and clean it up. Yeah, this, again, as I was talking about, this is one of ZSS's best top-tier matchups. You can see why with how dominant Gray was in that game 1.
Yeah, and now we're actually switching to a smaller stage. We're switching to Smash Bros. What do you think this is going to, like, you know, change just about how the tempo is going to be between these two?
Well, it gives you less room for Zero Suit to run circles around you with her better mobility. You also get lower grade resources quicker. It takes longer to mine the resources on Pokemon Stadium, so you're going to be getting a lot more dirt here, give you more opportunities to interrupt Zero Suit's offense with those lower grade resources.
It's a little bit of these lower grade resources, and also if Ethan recognized that he wasn't able to get these walls up and to kind of like, you know, use the space to get away from Gray in the first place, he's just saying, all right, let's bring it a little bit closer. If you want to stay at a certain distance from me, I'm going to make it so that way I'm going to get in with my up tilts, with my close pokes, and get my damage, because that's going to be how I'm going to win this game number 2.
And you're already seeing Ethan get to work with that in mind, dropping a lot more anvils to start out this game, just interrupting with aerials, with minecarts. He's putting out a lot more in Gray's way that he has to navigate around. It's really interrupting Gray's rhythm in neutral.
Yeah, it's like slightly like, you know, too close where like Gray is like playing a little bit, or Ethan's kind of forcing Gray to play a little bit shorter than that Zair range that Gray was really making use out of in that game number 1.
Getting a minecart just to keep Gray at bay there. Gonna rip that up smash. Not going to get punished for it, though. I was expecting an up smash to come out from Ethan. Just was not confident in his punish, so Gray's gonna live to see another day. But unlike last game, Ethan already has a diamond in hand.
And now both these players at high percents. I mean, Gray is going to get that side B. Not necessarily going to kill just yet, but it is going to put Ethan off stage. And now, as you were saying, Ethan does have the diamond. This already does feel very different compared to that first game. Yeah. As now he is going to actually craft the diamond even at 100% on this first stock. I don't know how I feel about this early diamond.
If you have it that early, you might as well go for it. You're playing a lot better in this game, too, especially when you have Gray off stage again here. Just going to be long with those back airs. Already has Gray up to 56%. You're very likely to get a second diamond in this game. So if you feel that you've got the momentum in your favor, you might as well let it rip.
Yeah, so yeah, sometimes you just got to let it rip. Side B as well, barely going to be missing the block, is not going to be using that block to necessarily, like, you know, survive or, like, get the punish with a minecart, as we've seen from Ethan usually, as he is still living. He is perfectly content to have those blocks now be his saving resource, his guardian angel, to keep this stock, to keep this diamond, really.
And Gray just giving up that lead trap scenario, but it ultimately didn't matter as he does find that up smash down. Quite a bit of percent here as Ethan just gets back to work, tacking on a couple hits here. That minecart going to come through mid-stage, and that's going to immediately clean up that second one. So Ethan has just shown how important this counter pick has been for his game plan.
And now suddenly we see Ethan as well with a bunch of iron, with a bunch of gold as well. So now suddenly he has the burst options available. Now he can really, like, you know, challenge if Gray wants to kind of stick into that Zaire mode. And now, all of a sudden, Gray has to be a little bit more cautious of how Ethan is going to really be looking for these kills, looking for this damage.
And finally getting a couple hits here, going to be just tacking on those long Steve combos on stage. But Gray finally getting a meaningful hit with that Nair, but is actually going to make something out of it. And that's a great conversion off stage for Gray to keep this close.
Yeah, especially with the resources that Ethan does have. If you want to make sure that Ethan can't get, like, you know, a diamond necessarily, that's where you got to start first. You got to reset that mining counter for what resources you're getting on Smashville. But now,
speaking of resources, Ethan does not have much in the tank right now, but it's not going to matter when you still have a minecart, and the high-powered minecart has more knockback, and that's going to be it for Ethan in that game too.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan was perfectly happy to scrap. He was kind of, like, you know, content with the fact and saying, like, you know, I'd rather get Gray off stage because it's not even just, like, you know, get him off stage, like, get the kill, but rather it's going to take long for him to get back to me to prevent me from mining. On PS2, if you swatted Gray away, for example, Gray would still land on stage. He could still get right back in with those Zairs. If you get him back on stage, he has to get all the way to the ledge, he has to all the way get up, he has to pick an option to get off the ledge, and then rush over. That's time that Ethan has spent to get the iron, to get the gold, to get more resources, really, to make it a more fair fight.
And it definitely worked out for Ethan there in that game too, but we are going to be making our way over to small battlefield here. A little bit bigger of a venue for Gray, just to try to keep things, you know, tight but not too tight, just to be able to apply that pressure, while Ethan still gets to keep Gray within a bit more of a comfortable position than PS2.
Yeah. A little bit closer, a little bit close for comfort, but not quite as close as Smashville. It's saying, hold on. Let's calm down a little bit.
Let's find a happy medium, yeah.
Yeah. But now, these players looking for that initial hit, as Gray was looking for that traditional link off the Nair, not able to get the back air linkage, as now Ethan is kind of stuck on this platform. Down air, still living though, and now we see the wall, actually. One of the first, like, you know, 3 high walls that we've seen for a little bit. We haven't seen it a lot, but it was preventing Gray from actually advancing for just a little bit.
One of the big changes as the set's gone on is the way Ethan's been using Anvil in disadvantage, or when he's been above Gray, is not really giving Gray an opportunity to start getting those up air juggles going. So that's really mitigated Gray's advantage state, where he's had to settle for a lot more piecemeal combos, a lot of horizontal combos instead. Yeah. And that's been able to make it easier for Ethan to keep up in the percentage department.
Yeah, it's been a little bit easier to keep on the percentage department, but if you get, like, you know, that powerful ZSS bear, then you gotta be able to match in other respects.
Yeah, if you can get him off the side, that's still gonna kill early, and you don't have to deal with that anvil. But now Gray finally getting a big conversion, looking for a finisher with that down B spike, but Ethan privy to that. He's gonna stay alive just for a little bit longer on the second stock.
He's privy to that, but also we don't see any iron coming out from Ethan just yet. We have a little bit of gold, so if he wants to try and craft those gold materials, he could, but we've still primarily only seen wood tools from Ethan so far.
Just going to use that attack on a little bit more damage. Does mine for a stronger resource on the tools there. I believe that's the iron, something of the like. But he still has not been able to get any meaningful offense going. Just trying to keep Zero Suit at bay. But that parry up smash going to pick up Zero Suit on the ground from behind Zombie. Okay, man.
It's good enough. It's good enough. Let it already be a giant scooping hitbox. Let's also let it hit from behind. Sure.
Oh, yeah. But Gray still in the lead here, but dealing with a big opening combo from Ethan is going to cut in that deficit quite a bit, but Gray does have him off stage.
Fair one, as now Ethan has only about 3 blocks to do anything with. He only has the stone, but we do have the iron materials which will give a little bit of damage, but it's not really going to matter all that much if you can't get in necessarily. If you want to be living at this high percent, you need more resources.
You see him starting to swat away with these back airs, but that's not going to be enough as Gray comes through with the side B. But still, as you said, Ethan just very much hurting for resources right now. Needs to make the most of this corner pressure, but Zero Suit does have that flip kick to reset.
It's everyone's favorite day 1 get out of jail free card, and that Ethan up smash, it's going to seal yet another stock. As now Dog Walk not quite going to be panning out just yet, as now suddenly the situation is completely reversed. Ethan's now the one who has his back to the ledge. Gray is looking for something. He's looking for something like a nair linkage, like a forward air 2 linkage as well. Got a little bit of damage, but now they're looking, it's like, for that next big hit. These are both characters where they know that they can take one hit that's just an inch and take it a whole mile.
Here we go. Minecart off stage does not get the spike hitbox of that fair, but Gray is still struggling. Gets footstool, still making it back, but has so much percent. Thankfully, Steve does not have Diamond just yet, so Gray is still not quite in peril unless another one of those parry up smashes come out. Ethan's been able to find those time and time again.
This is so scary because you have Gray at these high percents. You also see, Ethan perfectly content to have that block right behind him. It's not even just to live. It's purely just to punish Gray for hitting Ethan in the first place by immediately throwing a minecart right back at Gray. Now, Ethan doesn't have a pickaxe, though.
Yeah, Gray just trying to keep that pressure on so no materials get mined, but that minecart is already in hand, and that's going to be it in that game 3. So Ethan, winning back-to-back games, just needs one more to make this upset over Gray.
Ethan's been on the rise, and I think that Wisconsin Summit 3 is one of the perfect places to kind of cement your rise as a permanent rise to get into the upper echelon, at least of these players. And we've been talking a bit about pool number 3. Pool number 4 might also be interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely a prime opportunity for upsets. I wasn't expecting this one just due to how consistent Gray is against Steve and just how good the matchup is for Zero Suit, but Ethan has shown these cut from a different cloth, the way he's able to make a lot of these tough matchups work because he's so good at playing Steve, even if he can't play that defensive game plan.
He has a really good, a knowledge or really good idea of how to play the different modes of Steves. Sometimes different Steves, as you're kind of alluding to, you have the camping mode, you have the boxing mode. He is so good at just transitioning between the two of these for whatever the situation really requires.
And that definitely makes it tougher for Zero Suit, who's so used to just knocking down the wall and keeping Steve in disadvantage. But if Steve is unbothered and he just continues to pepper you with these neutral options to keep you at bay, it makes it a lot more nerve-wracking, a lot more frustrating for Zero Suit to get her offense going. No, the jump in is going to spell doom for Gray on his first stock there. He was out, but he jumped back in.
Gray's trying to, I feel like he's trying to get Sakurai to nerf Steve up smash yet again. He's trying to show how good of a move that really is, as now we get the nil ladders. Not quite going to be comboing just yet, but if we know anything about Ethan, we know he has those. It could have spelled the end of Gray's second stock.
Oh. And it's already gone. Oh my god, Ethan is going insane in this last game. He's trying to pull off this upset immediately. Gray needs to put the brakes on this offense, but Zero Suit does not really have the capability to consistently make comebacks like this. This is a mountain and a half for Grayson to climb.
The side B as well. Oh no.
Oh. What a complete unraveling as that set went on. What started out as a Gray game 1 win, as it went on slowly but surely, Ethan figured out the formula, and then it ultimately ended up just ripping the thread apart and dominating that game 4.
He's unbothered, moisturized. He looked in his element, and he got an upset over, a really good player. Really good. Everyone here is a good player, but I mean, every win though, in the summit is hard fought, but Gray, especially in these pools, is no slouch.
Especially from a matchup standpoint, Gray is really good against Steve, and the matchups, as I talked about, is just so good. For Zero Suit, but Ethan, again, as we've been talking about, just the adaptability that he has makes those tough matchups even doable.
Yeah, you need that skill if you want to succeed at this level.